What if everything you thought you knew about life and death was just a fraction of the truth? John, a 70-year-old retired teacher from Texas, had lived a full life, or so he thought. But when a sudden heart attack took him to the brink of death, he found himself in a realm beyond comprehension. He didn't see the pearly gates or hear harps. Instead, he was welcomed into a place where love was the language. Time melted away, and every question he had ever asked was answered. What John discovered there will forever change how we think about heaven. John's day began like so many others. The Texas sunrise painted the sky in shades of pink and orange as he sipped his morning coffee on the porch of his modest ranch home. He loved this time of day, a quiet moment to reflect, surrounded by the land he had tended for years. His heart, though weathered by age, had carried him through countless seasons, triumphs, and struggles. He had no reason to believe today would be any different. As he finished his coffee, John decided to take his usual morning walk through the nearby park. The air was crisp, and the dew on the grass sparkled like tiny jewels. He waved to a couple walking their dog and smiled at a group of joggers who passed by. But as he reached the trail's halfway point, a sudden searing pain shot through his chest. It was unlike anything he had ever felt, sharp, crushing, and unforgiving. John stumbled to the ground, clutching his chest as the world around him dimmed. He heard distant voices, someone shouting for help, but their words grew fainter until they disappeared entirely. His body lay still on the ground, but John was no longer there. Instead, he felt himself being pulled, not with force, but with an irresistible sense of peace and purpose. His journey had just begun. When John first opened his eyes, or what felt like eyes, he was no longer in the park. He was in a place that defied explanation, surrounded by a glowing light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. There was no tunnel, no narrow path guiding him forward. Instead, he found himself in an open expanse, the light enveloping him like a warm embrace. The light wasn't blinding or harsh. It was soft, inviting, and alive. It seemed to communicate without words, filling John with a profound sense of love and acceptance. He felt no fear, no confusion, only a deep understanding that he was exactly where he was meant to be. As he looked around, the space began to shift. It wasn't a place in the way we understand places on Earth. The light changed in color and texture, creating what felt like landscapes. Rolling hills made of golden hues, a sky filled with colors beyond human perception. Each shift brought with it a new wave of emotion: joy, peace, awe. John felt as though he was floating, yet he was grounded. He could move without effort, simply by thinking. There was no sense of time. Every moment stretched into eternity, yet it all felt like an instant. The space seemed to respond to him, reflecting his thoughts, feelings, and questions. It was as if he had entered the very fabric of existence itself. As John moved through this ethereal space, he noticed something peculiar. There was no sound, yet it wasn't silent. The silence was alive, vibrating with an energy that seemed to hum through every part of him. It was as if the universe was speaking in a language beyond words, a symphony composed of pure emotion and understanding. He realized that this silence wasn't empty. It was full of meaning, connection, and love. It wasn't something to be heard with ears, but felt with the soul. Every unspoken question he had ever carried seemed to find its answer in this symphony. He understood things he had never been able to grasp before: the interconnectedness of all life, the purpose behind pain, and the infinite nature of love. John found himself listening to this silence in a way he never had before. It felt as though every thought, every memory, every piece of his life was being woven into this greater symphony. He wasn't just an observer. He was a participant, a note in the divine melody of existence. And for the first time, he understood that every life, every soul, was part of this same song. Just as John began to wonder what this place was, he felt a presence approach him. It wasn't a person, not in the way we think of people, but it was undeniably alive. This presence didn't have a form, yet it felt as real as any physical being he had ever encountered. It radiated warmth, wisdom, and an overwhelming sense of love. The presence didn't speak, at least not with words. Instead, it communicated directly to his soul. John felt its messages as if they were his own thoughts, yet they carried a clarity and depth he had never known. "You are safe," the presence conveyed. "There is much to see." John felt himself being gently guided through the expanse of light. The presence didn't push or pull. It simply moved with him, like a trusted companion on a journey. Though he couldn't put a name to it, the presence felt deeply familiar, as though it had been with him his entire life, waiting for this moment. It began to show him things, not through images or sounds, but through pure understanding. John felt truths about existence unfolding within him, answers to questions he hadn't even known he was asking. The presence didn't judge him or make him feel small. It made him feel seen, loved, and part of something much greater than himself. As John and the presence continued their journey, the light around them began to shift. It morphed into colors, brilliant, vivid, and unlike anything John had ever seen. These weren't colors of the rainbow or any spectrum known to humanity. They were something entirely different, colors that seemed to vibrate with life and emotion. Each color carried its own meaning, its own essence. One shade filled him with a profound sense of peace, while another radiated joy so intense it brought tears to his eyes. Another hue seemed to speak directly to his soul, reminding him of loved ones, of laughter, of moments he had long forgotten but cherished deeply. John realized that these colors weren't just visual, they were experiences. They moved through him, connecting him to memories, feelings, and truths about the universe. The presence explained, not with words but with understanding, that these colors were reflections of the divine, a language of heaven that transcended human senses. For the first time, John understood the limits of earthly perception. He realized how much of life's beauty goes unnoticed, hidden beyond the narrow range of human sight and sound. And in that moment, he felt an overwhelming gratitude for this glimpse of the infinite. As John marveled at the beauty of the colors and the serenity of the realm, the presence gently guided him toward a deeper understanding. Suddenly, he was shown moments from his life when he had felt the most pain, times of loss, grief, and hardship. At first, John felt an ache in his soul, as if reliving those moments, but then something remarkable happened. He began to see them in a completely new light. The presence communicated to John that pain wasn't meant to punish but to teach. Every moment of suffering he had endured had been an opportunity for growth, connection, and compassion. He saw how losing his wife years ago, which had nearly broken him, had taught him the depth of love and how to value relationships. He saw how moments of failure in his career had driven him to be a better teacher and mentor to his students. John realized that his pain hadn't just affected him. It had shaped him into someone stronger and more empathetic. The presence conveyed that, on earth, pain is part of the human experience, but in heaven, it's viewed as a transformative force, a tool for shaping the soul. Instead of bitterness, John felt gratitude for his struggles. He understood that every tear he had shed, every moment of despair, had been part of his journey toward becoming the person he was always meant to be. The presence then led John to what felt like a vast, shimmering library, though it wasn't a library in the physical sense. In this space, John saw what appeared to be a book, glowing with light, resting before him. He somehow knew it was the story of his life. As the pages began to turn, John saw his life unfold, not just as events, but as experiences woven with emotion and consequence. Every choice he had ever made was laid bare, every word spoken, every action taken. But what struck him most were the ripple effects, how his decisions had influenced others in ways he had never imagined. He saw a moment when he had comforted a student who was struggling with self-doubt. At the time, it seemed like a small gesture, but now John saw how that moment had given the student the courage to pursue their dreams, leading to a life of fulfillment and success. He also saw moments he wasn't proud of, times when he had been impatient, judgmental, or unkind. But instead of shame, he felt a gentle nudge toward understanding and forgiveness. The presence conveyed that every life is a tapestry, each thread interconnected with others. Your actions don't end with you, the presence communicated. They become part of the greater whole. As John continued to process what he had seen in the book of his life, the presence revealed a new truth. Every soul is connected by invisible strings, threads of love and energy that weave through the universe. John was shown these connections in a way that felt more real than anything he had ever known. He saw the string connecting him to his wife, still vibrant and strong despite her passing. He felt the string tying him to his children, his friends, and even strangers he had encountered briefly. Every interaction, no matter how small, had created a bond. The presence guided him to see that these connections weren't limited to people he had known in life. They extended across time and space, linking him to ancestors he had never met and to souls he had yet to encounter. John was struck by the enormity of it all. The realization that humanity is, in essence, one interconnected web. The presence explained that these strings are made of love, and the more love we give and receive, the stronger the web becomes. John understood that every act of kindness strengthens this universal connection, while every act of hate weakens it. For the first time, he felt the weight and wonder of his place in the grand design. John was then shown a single moment from his life that he had long forgotten. He had been standing in line at a grocery store, tired and preoccupied, when the cashier, a young woman, had looked particularly distraught. John had smiled at her, offering a kind word about how hard she must be working. She had smiled back, her demeanor brightening. To John, it was an insignificant moment, but the presence revealed the deeper truth. That day, the young woman had been on the verge of giving up, overwhelmed by personal struggles. John's small act of kindness had given her a glimmer of hope, enough to carry her through the day. That hope had grown, leading her to seek help and eventually turn her life around. John was overwhelmed by the realization that even the smallest gestures can have profound impacts. The presence conveyed that no act of kindness is ever wasted. Every smile, every kind word, is a spark, it communicated. You never know how far its light will travel. The presence then took John to what he could only describe as a garden, but it wasn't like any garden on earth. Each plant was a soul, glowing with its own unique light. Some were vibrant and flourishing, while others appeared dim or struggling to grow. John felt a deep connection to this garden, as if he were both an observer and a part of it. The presence explained that each soul is like a seed, planted in the soil of life. The way it grows depends on the love, kindness, and nourishment it receives, not just from others, but also from within. John saw that the flourishing souls were those who had embraced love, forgiveness, and gratitude. The struggling souls were weighed down by resentment, fear, or isolation. John was then shown his own plant, glowing with a warm light, but still with room to grow. The presence reassured him that his journey wasn't over and that he still had the chance to nurture his soul and help others do the same. In that moment, John felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. He understood that his role wasn't just to live, but to help others flourish, to contribute to the garden of souls so that it could grow brighter and more beautiful. John's next revelation was one of the most profound: the nature of time in this heavenly realm. The presence conveyed to him that time, as humans understand it, doesn't exist in the afterlife. John experienced this truth firsthand as moments from his life, past and future, unfolded simultaneously. He saw himself as a young boy running through fields, as a father cradling his newborn child, and even as an older man sitting on his porch, all happening in the same instant. It wasn't confusing, it felt natural, as if every moment of his existence was part of a single, eternal now. John realized that what humans perceive as linear time is merely a construct, a way to make sense of their physical world. Here, in this realm, all moments were interconnected, like pages in a book that could be revisited at will. The Presence explained that this timeless state allows souls to fully grasp the meaning of their lives, seeing not just individual events, but the patterns and connections that tie them together. John felt an overwhelming sense of peace as he let go of the fear of running out of time, understanding that life is eternal in its essence. John was then guided to a place that felt indescribably vast and intimate at the same time. Here, he was shown a universal truth that transcended all human divisions: race, religion, nationality, and culture. He saw that every soul, no matter its background or experiences, was connected by the same divine essence: love. The Presence communicated that love isn't just an emotion. It's the very fabric of existence, the force that binds the universe together. John saw how this truth was reflected in every aspect of life on Earth, from the way a parent nurtures a child to the bonds formed between friends and even strangers. He also saw how humanity often forgets this truth, allowing fear, anger, and misunderstanding to create divisions. But these barriers, the Presence assured him, are illusions. Beneath them lies a unity so profound that it can never be broken. John felt a deep sense of responsibility to share this truth when he returned. He realized that if people could see one another through the lens of this universal love, so many of the world's conflicts and struggles would dissolve. As John processed the universal truth of love, the Presence guided him to a magnificent tree unlike any he had ever seen. Its trunk glowed with a golden light, and its branches stretched endlessly upward, each leaf shimmering with an iridescent brilliance. The Presence communicated that this was the tree of forgiveness. John was shown how forgiveness works as a healing force, not just for those who receive it, but for those who offer it. He saw moments from his life when he had held on to anger or resentment, and how those emotions had weighed him down, even in ways he hadn't realized. The Presence encouraged John to release those burdens, showing him how forgiveness could restore the connections that had been weakened or broken. John was also shown times when others had forgiven him, even when he hadn't asked for it. He felt a wave of gratitude and a renewed sense of freedom as he let go of the bitterness he had carried. The Presence emphasized that forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing harm. It's about choosing love over anger, connection over division. John understood that this simple yet powerful act was one of the most important lessons he could bring back to Earth. Next, the Presence revealed another profound truth. Life is like a melody, and each choice we make adds a note to the song. John was shown how his decisions, both big and small, had shaped the melody of his life. Some notes were harmonious, like the time he mentored a struggling student, while others were dissonant, reflecting moments of selfishness or fear. The Presence reassured him that no melody is perfect, and that the beauty of life lies in its complexity. Even the dissonant notes, when viewed as part of the whole, added depth and richness to the song. John realized that his choices didn't just affect his own melody, they intertwined with those of others, creating a symphony that reflected the interconnectedness of all life. This revelation filled John with hope. He saw that every moment, no matter how small, was an opportunity to contribute something meaningful to the greater symphony. He resolved to live more intentionally, choosing love, kindness, and courage to make his melody as beautiful as possible. The Presence then showed John a series of doors, each one glowing with a unique light. John instinctively knew that these doors represented the possibilities of his life, paths he had taken, paths he had avoided, and paths he had never even imagined. The Presence conveyed that while John had made his choices, the potential for growth and change was never truly closed. John was given the chance to step through one of the doors, and as he did, he experienced a life he might have lived if he had pursued a different path. He saw himself as an artist, a dream he had abandoned in his youth, and felt the joy and fulfillment it brought. But he also saw the challenges and sacrifices it would have required, reminding him that no path is without its struggles. The next part of John's journey was the most personal and profound. The presence led him to a radiant light, brighter than anything he had encountered before. Yet, it wasn't harsh or overwhelming. It was inviting, warm, and deeply familiar. As John moved closer, he felt an incredible sensation of being fully known and completely loved. The light wasn't just a source of illumination, it was alive. It seemed to speak directly to his soul, calling him by name without uttering a single word. John realized that this light was the essence of divine love, the source of all creation. In its presence, he felt no judgment, only a deep sense of understanding and acceptance. The light showed John moments from his life when he had doubted himself, times when he had felt unworthy or unimportant. It gently reminded him that he was never alone, that he had always been part of something far greater than himself. John's heart swelled with gratitude as he understood that this light had been with him all along, guiding him, even when he didn't realize it. As John basked in the presence of the light, he began to see faces, loved ones he had lost over the years. His wife appeared first, her smile radiant, her eyes filled with the same love he had always known. She embraced him, not physically, but in a way that transcended touch, a connection that filled every corner of his soul. Other faces followed. His parents, a close friend from childhood, even a teacher who had inspired him as a young boy. Each reunion was filled with joy, but also a new understanding. The presence conveyed to John that goodbyes on earth aren't endings. They're transitions. Each loss carries a hidden gift, a lesson, or a memory that continues to shape the soul. John saw how the pain of losing his wife had taught him to treasure every moment, how the loss of his parents had strengthened his resilience, and how the departure of friends had inspired him to reach out and form new connections. He realized that every goodbye had added something to his life, even as it took something away. The presence then guided John to see how heaven is not a distant place, but a reflection of the best parts of earth. John was shown moments from his life when he had experienced glimpses of heaven without even realizing it. The laughter of his grandchildren, the beauty of a sunrise over the Texas plains, the quiet peace of a rainy afternoon. The presence explained that heaven is a state of being, rooted in love, gratitude, and connection. While the afterlife offers its fullness, its echoes can be found in everyday moments on earth. John understood that humans often overlook these glimpses, too caught up in their worries and distractions to see the divine in the ordinary. This revelation filled John with a deep sense of purpose. He realized that his role wasn't just to wait for heaven, but to create it on earth, to bring its light into his daily life through kindness, patience, and gratitude. As the journey continued, the presence directed John's attention to the vast expanse of the universe. He saw stars, galaxies, and endless stretches of light and energy. For the first time, he felt the true enormity of creation, not as something separate from him, but as something he was deeply connected to. The presence communicated that every star, every molecule, every soul is part of a grand design, a symphony of existence orchestrated by love. John felt the whispers of the stars, not as words, but as an overwhelming sense of purpose and unity. He understood that humanity's struggles, triumphs, and questions are all part of this greater whole. The stars seemed to remind John that life isn't about finding answers, but about embracing the mystery, trusting that everything has its place in the grand design. This knowledge filled him with a profound peace, a sense that he was exactly where he was meant to be. As John's journey neared its end, the presence shared one final truth. The secret to experiencing heaven on earth lies in the power of presence. John was shown how much of his life had been spent worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, missing the beauty of the present moment. The presence explained that the present is the only place where love, connection, and growth can truly exist. Heaven isn't about escaping the struggles of life, but about finding its beauty in each moment, no matter how small or fleeting. John resolved to carry this lesson with him, to live each day with intention, gratitude, and love. He felt a gentle pull, a sense that his time in this realm was coming to an end. The presence reassured him that he wasn't leaving heaven behind. He was bringing it with him. John woke in a hospital room, surrounded by his family. Tears streamed down his face as he realized the depth of the gift he had been given. Though he was back in his earthly body, he felt lighter, freer, and more alive than ever before. He knew his purpose now to live in love, to cherish the present, and to share the truths he had seen. John's story became a beacon of hope for everyone who heard it, a reminder that heaven isn't just a destination but a way of living, accessible to anyone willing to open their heart and embrace the beauty of now.